Welcome back, all my 40K fanatics out there. I'm DJ here with Tim's Nation to bring you this news update. We'll discuss with you this news update because I'm sure many of you have already seen this and coming off the Warhammer 40K website. Prepare for match play updates with the next action-packed season of Warhammer 40K. We are getting new match play rules. This is something Lane and I have discussed quite a few times since we felt like it was getting kind of stale. Now, granted, we play a lot of Warhammer, but it gets to a point where we've felt like we've played pretty much every mission and every combination, and it's like, oh, well, what's fun, what's exciting, and we've played them quite a bit. Granted, we play a lot of 40K, so that also has something to do with it. But within some of the past updates, and especially 9th edition, we thought, man, it's surprising that we didn't see any updates yet. So here it is. We're about to the year anniversary of 10th edition, and we are going to be getting some new match play rules. Now, guys, recently I have been on the job hunt and making new moves for all that stuff. So I haven't been able to keep up with some of the news. And now that things are settled, I am going to be spending a lot of this week getting caught up in things. I do feel like some of their releases have been kind of stealthy. Maybe that's just me. Maybe my social media targets have not been picking up some of the stuff going on, especially with Orcs and Chaos, two factions that Lane and myself don't particularly play. So we may not have seen as much. And that's no excuse because we're here to bring you all the 40K content we can. And so I'm going to spend a lot of this time looking at it, working on it. So we're going to see a bunch this week and next week, a bunch of different videos, a bunch of random little stuff like this, stuff in this like kind of new format. I took some of your guys' opinion, moved my face out of the way a bit, moved the news over there so we can talk about this, read this together. So sit back, relax. If you're at work, if you're at home, if you're painting, we're going to go through this and what this news article was, what happened, what we're looking at in the near future for Warhammer 40K. All right, so prepare for match play updates. Here we go. So, since the dawn of the 10th edition of Warhammer 40K, the Leviathan deck has been making it easy to enjoy varied and exciting match to play missions, whether casually, at home, or with your friends, or at a tournament table. Now the new season beckons, and the Necron sinister machinations take center stage for the next year of match play missions, making in the chapter approved Pariah Nexus mission deck. Sorry, I read that at first at you see a whole bunch of stuff like different cartoons and anime and stuff, and that is not a word. This machinations, that is not a word that I see on a regular basis. So that kind of just that threw me off a little bit right there. I apologize. So first things first, Necrons are going to be the focal point. As we see here on the cover of their chapter-approved box, we have a picture of of course, the wonderful Convergence of Dominion. I mean, doesn't see much competitive play, so at least we get to see it in competitive play on the backs of cards and on the front of the cards. Love it. Now, I will say that with the new Necrons Codex, the Convergence is at least a little bit better. It's a little more viable than it was before. So happy to see that. And I love the model. I think it's a great design. I think it's really cool. So cool. Here we go. So what does this mean for Necrons before we jump into it? And this is going to be a big speculation here. I'm going to try not to speculate on too many things until we get through the whole article. Then we'll have some speculations at the end. But initially, could this mean new models for Necrons? Could this mean new units? Could this mean unit updates? Probably not. Probably not too much. We might see a little bit here and there, but some of that stuff might not actually be for in the realm of like Warhammer 40K as we know it right now. It may be stuff for the Crusade missions, that format. I don't necessarily, we haven't really seen too much with it, but fingers are crossed and hopeful. We might see some cool stuff with Necrons, being them right there as one of my primary factions. Definitely would love to see some stuff for them. All in all, though, this is where they're taking the story. This is going to be the focal point of where 40K is going to be moving as far as their story point, as far as some of their novels and things like that. We're going to be having a lot of talk about Necrons and the Pariah Nexus moving forward. As the end of, what was it, the end of, I don't remember if it was the end of ninth. No, it was early on that we already started to see, I think it was like at the end of eighth when we started to see Xeris actually start coming into power. And although he's not going to, I don't see him replacing the Silent King ever, as Zarek is who Zarek is. This is Xeris starting to really get wild probably with some of his tests, so we could see some cool stuff in the future for the Necrons entirely. And there's a lot into the lore of Necrons as well, where they fall. Like, although you would look at the Necrons and say, oh, they're the bad guys, they're just the bad guys, there is some middle ground with that, to them being the bad guys. Like, yeah, they're not necessarily the most moral. I wouldn't say that they're like the most moral when it comes to the sense of like the human race per se, because there's some jealousy behind them having still a flesh body and the Necrons being trapped and mindless in some senses. But it's not, they have their own mission, their own reason, and stuff like that. I'd say Necrons have more hatred towards like Eldar and probably orcs and stuff like that versus some of the Imperium of mankind. So to see the Necrons maybe do stuff with them isn't completely outside of it. There is the Blood Angels aligned with Necrons to save Baal. Although Necrons were being quite devious in how they did it. I won't spoiler it, but it was an excellent, excellent story. And Necrons and Blood Angels fighting side by side. So you can't say it won't happen. All right, back into what we're here for. Chapter Approve. Like the previous chapter approved decks, this deck of cards generates a randomized set of mission parameters for each game using refined deployment decks, fresh mission rule cards, and an updated or brand new primary and secondary mission cards. It's a great way to create exciting balanced challenges for both newcomers and seasoned veterans. This time around, you'll also need to contend with new secret missions, which replace the previous gambits, giving players who've fallen behind on primary missions a chance to change tactics and aim to achieve victory. So, initially, secret missions are replacing gambits. Gambits, I think, were a swing and a miss. I tried them twice, maybe 3 times on the channel, and I stuck 2 of them. Didn't even win those games when I stuck them. So not swing and a miss, good concept, interesting concept there to be able to keep players in the game. But, and I have to say I respect and understand that. If you went too far with it where the gambits could completely swing the game, it would have been bad for the opposite way. It's a very fine line where the gambits and now the secret missions have to get right to that point where they're usable, but not completely overpowered to the sense where everyone is just staying back and waiting and just using a secret mission in this sense to win the game. So it is an interesting spot for something to be in and a new thing that we're going to see. So hopefully these will be more usable. They say new, so it seems like all the gambits will be gone and it's going to be completely wiped out and they're going to try again. So cool, good there. New, it says secondary missions, balanced challenges, or I'm sorry, what was I looking for here? It was updated. So it seems like some of the missions that we've already seen, some of the things that maybe didn't make too much sense, are going to be updated, changed, tweaked a little bit. Cool. Okay. And we're going to see that. Because as we're going to move on with the article here, we're going to start to see kind of more of what develops and what this means. But as of right now, we know that we're getting new and updated. So what's new? Well, the new mission rule gives battle line units their time to shine as fully half benefit your core rank and file warrior in some way. The potential to raise banners and bolster your secondary mission score with critical extra victory points or swoop in on your enemy's flank at the start of the game with rapid escalation makes a solid battle line roster a valuable asset as your stalwart troops earn their keep doing much more than sitting on backfield objectives. Okay, so a couple things there. These are mission rules. And as we've seen above, before we move down, and I'll stop touching it, fresh mission rule cards and updated. So I didn't see yet when I get that how it doesn't tell us yet how many we're going to see of this, but or of each one. But we are seeing two brand new ones, so we don't know how many. So for you to say bolstering battle line and making battle line armies, this is going to be one of the things that's going to matter on the tournaments, because in the tournaments that I've played in, we usually know we 99% of the time know the entire mission setup before we even start playing the game. So you'll know if it's going to be battle line focused or not, which is that's okay, that's good. That's good for competitive styling, competitive play. But how many of these are actually going to be? We're only seeing two right now. So we need to see all of them, see that, see how TOs are going to try to take that, how they're going to utilize it before we can really say, oh, battle line armies are going to come back and be a thing. I think that this is in the right direction. And I think this definitely gives a possibility for a more battle line focused edition. It allows us to bring more units off the shelves that we weren't using before. Personally, I've been running a lot of Immortals in some of my builds, so I'm very happy and very open minded to seeing some of this. And I have little mini monoliths, so seeing raised banners make its return makes me smile. Now, instead of this being a secondary mission, this is a mission rule. So this will be something that would replace or be with things like minefields or what other one? What other ones was there? Like sweep. The extra CP. I'm sorry, the names are eluding me, but though the extra CP for controlling your home objective, those things, this would be one that would replace those as a mission rule for the game. So banners. At the end of each player's turn, if a battle line unit from your army is within range of an objective marker that player controls, that unit raises a banner. So no action needed. You just raise the banner if you control it at the end of each player's turn. That player scores 1 victory point, which is counted towards secondary missions, as it was said above. And that player unit can no longer raise banner on that objective. So you put a marker on it. Cool. All those custom banners that we had last edition for raised banners, we got something we can do with them. And I've seen some cool banners, some that were fun, some were funny. I have little mini monoliths. Happy to see that we might be able to use that stuff again. The other one is rapid escalation. So this one I'm actually going to go from the bottom to the top for reasons. So this one is based on your battle size. So incursion is going to be 100 points, strike force 200, onslaught 300. So no more than 10% of your army. And what those points represent is that you can take a battle line unit, and that battle line unit can then enter from strategic reserve on the first battle round anywhere on the field that is 6 inches from a battle edge, but not in your opponent's deployment zone. So it can only be battle line units. And the points being 200 for a competitive game, I think is limiting in the right way. I do think some armies will be able to utilize this better than others, but again, this is not a permanent rule. So it's not something that you're like fully building into. It's something that you kind of like, okay, I'm playing this mission. I have a unit here like World Eaters, I think would do excellent with this by being able to put a squad of Khorne Berserkers closer on the front line to start the game off up there. I think that'll be nice for them. But it's not something you really want to build into because it's not something that you're going to have every single game. Other than that, I think most of the time for some armies may not even want to do it necessarily. Some armies might do it just simply to protect a battle line unit to make sure to keep a unit alive that they may not be able to know where to deploy, and they're not necessarily going to go on the front line. So this one I think is going to be used frequently. People will use it frequently. But the way that they're intending it to be a unit that's pushing forward, unless you're playing just one mission, one game, and you know this is a part of it, or it's the entire tournament, it's just this one mission rule, I don't see people building into it as much of it's going to be something that's in the back of your mind that can occur. So, cool. All right. And then, of course, we see some of the return ones. We're going to see some of these things return and get modified and tweak. Hopefully, they just get rid of minefields. I hate that one. I really do. All right. So 3 new primary missions test. There's an asterisk here. The asterisk is, and we're going to scan down here. So we got 2 things. Which join 6 returning favorites from Leviathan mission deck. And we also have the asterisk that actions are a mechanic that players may be familiar with. So this is the double asterisk is telling us that we are actually bringing back actions as what we've been saying for a lot of this edition. We're like, oh, you have to complete an action, whether it's like cleanse and stuff like that. We talk about it as an action. Exactly. See, my son even agrees. Actions are back. Nice. He's happy about it too. But we're calling a spade on this one. I think people have been saying actions for a lot of things and calling units action monkeys and stuff like that. I think this is going to be it's just like Games Workshop realized that this is something that it's a phrase that we like, so let's keep it. Same with like things like Deep Strike that they took out last edition and just start calling it all sorts of other things. Deep Strike is Deep Strike. And then joining 6 returning favorites from Leviathan decks. So, going back to where we are, scrolling back up, we're right here. 3 new. So we're going to have 9 primary missions, and 3 of them are going to be new. To test your army's endurance, engaging new ways, Terraform is particular, can push ponderous or defensive forces out of their comfort zone. Man, they put that phrasing in there just for streamers and people making videos. Particular can push ponderous. Wow. Awarding a stream of VP to whoever can perform a special action on an objective first. Whether they can continue maintaining control or not, you'll have to decide whether you're race for points first and secure a steady income, or take advantage of similarly hasty opponents to slowly control the battlefield and scoop a large tally for occupying objectives throughout the game. So here we go. Terraform. It is an action. If you can see here, like right here, it says Terraform down here. I don't think you can see my mouse on there, but down in the box, it says Terraform action. So this is an action. Starts shooting phase. Units. 1 or more unit from your army, each within range of an objective marker that is not within your opponent's deployment zone and has not been terraformed. Okay, 1 or more units from your army, each within range of a different objective marker. So you can do 1 or more, so you can do this multiple times in a turn. From your army, each within range of a different objective marker that is not within your opponent's deployment zone. So you can do it on your own. Range of different objective marker that is not within your deployment. Oh, I'm sorry, excuse me, your deployment zone. So only the ones outside. So you could do it to your opponents. You cannot do it to your own. Okay. End of your opponent's next turn. Okay, end of your opponent's next turn, or the end of the battle, whichever comes first. If the unit performing this action is still within range of the same objective marker and you control it, that's when it completes. And you have to control it too. So you can't. So if your opponent comes in there and just puts enough OC on it to take it away, that would actually stop it. If completed, each of those objective markers terraformed. All right, so it's terraformed. Let's see if that tells us what that means in a second. Second, so that is the terraform action. It says second battle round onwards. When? End of the command phase, or the end of your turn if it is the 5th battle round and you're going second. So end of your command phase or end of your turn if it is the 5th battle round and you go second. Okay, so bonuses for going second. The player whose turn it is scores victory points as follows, up to 15 per turn. 4 for each objective marker they control. 2 for each objective marker they have terraformed during the battle. Note that the above victory point are cumulative, so players who control 1 objective marker and they also have terraformed will score 6 victory points that turn. So when you terraform it, it doesn't go away. You're not unterraforming an objective marker if you lose control of it at the end of your opponent's next turn or the end of the battle. So once you start terraforming an objective, 1 unit in your shooting phase, then it's at the end of your opponent's next turn. So your opponent gets to go. So you go first, you terraform it, and then your opponent goes and they have the chance to knock you off the objective. If they don't, the objective marker is terraformed. Then if they take the objective from you, you will still get 2 victory points because each objective marker that you've terraformed. So you still get 2 for it over the course of the game, but that's it. You cannot... It's at the end of the opponent's turn. And you can't terraform an objective marker more than once. The above VP are cumulative, blah, 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 blah. Okay, so This is starting to go in the direction, from what I'm seeing, especially with like the other battle line stuff. This is starting to go in objective of what we've seen before, where a lot of these mission objectives and mission rules are really playing off of the objective markers more so. Like, you really are trying to get you to play more off the objective markers and doing some work on objective markers, and that being the sense of scoring the game. Especially going in the realm of battle lines, playing large bricks in that sense might be valuable in this. To being able to score these points, you lose these units, but you've terraformed these objectives. So if you can get 4 objective markers terraformed, you're looking at 8 points, even if you control 0 objective markers. So, something to think about. Secondary missions have an updated design to better communicate when and how points are scored, especially for those whose rewards differ between fixed and tactical. New missions task you with booby trapping terrain features, securing board edges, and a particular favorite, trying to destroy select enemy units your opponent themselves has marked for death. The decision is double-edged sword. They can give you a tough challenge by picking durable elite units, but also paints a huge target on their valuable heads. So first, before we even read what Mark for Death is, secondary missions, updated design. So it seems like we will be seeing some secondary missions return. We are changing the secondary missions. Love it. That's necessary. If you're changing the mission, change it all. Yeah, definitely. Let's see it all new and fresh. Cool. I like it. There will be some that are fixed and there's some that are tactical. So all that method is still sticking around. It seems like everything's the same. It's just the cards are different. So let's see. Marked for Death. I don't see the little tag on the bottom. That was that little emblem. So it looks like this is not a fixed one. So one that you can only draw. When drawn, your opponent must select 3 units from their army on the battlefield. If there are only 2 units from your army on the battlefield, they must select those units. Okay, thank you for clearing that up. If there are no units from their army on the battlefield, discard this card and draw a new secondary mission card. Okay, so, I mean, and as weird as that second part sounds, I'm glad that actually that's in there, because when you do get into a point that you may table someone and you have some tournaments that do base the battle points and the score, you are flipping cards to finish out the game. And if you table your opponent and they have no units at all, this at least doesn't penalize you for being a outstanding general in that sense and winning the game. Now you can flip a new card to still be able to score those points to help you in the tournament, where some of them that you look at it like you can't score it at all because your opponent doesn't have any units, stuff like no prisoners. So when you do this, your opponent selects 3 units in their army. So on the battlefield, if there are only 2, they must select those units. Okay, and so they're marked. Those selected units on the battlefield are marked. I guess so. Those are marked for death. Any battle round, when end of each player's turn, 1 or more selected units were destroyed or removed from the battlefield for any reason this turn, 5 victory points. Or removed from the battlefield for any reason. Any other reason. Okay, that's interesting. So you score 5 points if the unit's destroyed. 1 or more of the selected units were destroyed or removed from the battlefield. So, and it is end of either player's turn. So we have this thing with like Grey Knights and Hypercrypt where you remove units at the end of your player turn. So you stack this. So if you're this secondary, you're going to have to be careful with it, because if you go and pick up some of those units, I believe, just by what I'm reading here and the wording on this, if I picked a Dread Knight Grandmaster and then chose to pick it up off the battlefield, this is then he's removed from the battlefield, and you now would score 5 points. Same thing with like Mista Deimos. I spent a command point to pick up that unit. That unit's not on the battlefield or removed from the battlefield for any other reason. It just says for any other reason, and not removed from the game, removed from the battlefield. So with this, and it's scored at the end of either player's turn. So if it's the end of your turn, You're the control. That's weird because you're the controlling player of this, but your opponent's the controlling player of their ability. So which one resolves first? Do you pick up the unit first, or does this resolve first? Because both are at the end of either player's turn. I'll have to look over and see in the Grey Knight thing if there's any specifics, but that's my first question is in things like hypercrypt and that which one would affect, I mean, how do you state that? How do you score that in that sense? Interesting. Unlike the Gambits, they replace secret missions are kept hidden from your opponent until the end of the game. And with 4 secret missions to choose from, it'll take some on-the-spot deductive skills from them to figure out exactly what you are trying to accomplish and thwart your cunning agenda. At the end of the 3rd battle round, starting with the player who went second, you can choose to undertake a secret mission if your VP from your primary mission are less than or equal to your opponent's. Okay, so first of all, you have to have less or equal VP. So you have to be losing or tied to do this. There's no random draw. Just pick one card from your secret mission deck and hide. Yeah, sit down. Oh, this is why we don't jump on couches. Anyone who has kids know. When your kid's being quiet, that usually means they're getting into trouble. And he was being very quiet. And then I turn over there, I look, and he's jumping on the couch. I believe the saying is no more monkeys jumping on the bed. Okay. All right, we're good. Problem averted. He definitely bumped his head, but just a little bit. He's good. Enough to tell him, hey, you shouldn't do that. All right, back to 40K. There's no random draw. Just pick one card from the secret mission deck and hide it. At the end of the game, if you've completed its special condition, you earn a juicy 20 victory points. There is some risk to go with the reward, though. If you pick a secret mission, you cannot score more than 20 victory points from your primary missions. You can normally score up to 50 victory points for the primary mission, so opting for a secret mission will limit you to 40 victory points total from both. Even if you succeed, you'll need to decide if your primary mission is a lost cause before making the last-ditch tactic switch for points. Okay, so there's no random draw. Just pick. Well, I didn't think there was a random draw before. I thought you'd still picked it. Just pick one card from the secret mission deck and hide it. At the end of the game, if you have completed its special condition, you'll earn juicy 20 victory points. Okay. So the secret missions themselves are each distinct enough to that a canny opponent can guess what you're trying to do. So you'll need to obfuscate, fun word there, your movement to slip it past their notice. Command insertion rewards a sudden dash to seize the enemy's deployment zone with your warlord, especially good for moving characters or units you can redeploy mid-battle, while War of Attractions instead wants you to eliminate or push back their battle line units while smothering their territory with your own. So, great, let's read these. End of the battle. So we got command insertion, end of the battle. Your warlord is within range of one or more objective markers in your opponent's deployment zone that you control. So you have to get your opponent's marker at the end of the game, and that's not, considering what we were looking at before, that is a lot less difficult than what we had seen before. So definitely happy to see that. End of the that one's a lot easier to do. And again, we're keeping these secrets so your opponent doesn't even know what's going on or what's going to happen. Another one, War of Attrition. End of the battle. One or more battle line units from your army are within your opponent's deployment zone, and one of the following conditions applies. There is no battle line units in your opponent's army on the battlefield. Every battle line unit from your opponent's army that is on the battlefield is within every battle line unit from your opponent's army that is on the battlefield is within your opponent's deployment zone. So That one again, you're going to know your before you pick this, you're going to know your opponent's army. So you're going to see if they have a lot of battle line units and if that's even plausible. And you're also going to know where you stand on if you're a battle line heavy unit army or not. And you one or more battle line units from your army that are in your opponent's deployment zone. Not a difficult condition to meet there. And then you either, I mean, if your opponent has no battle line units, then that's right there. You look at it and go, okay, I'll take this as my secondary mission. And then if things go south, that's where you can go. So, all right, scroll down a little bit more. And let's see. So those are definitely a lot less confusing than they were before. So we'll see those probably being used a lot more, actually. If your opponent thinks you're trying to achieve command insertion and retreats on the battlefield, units to contest the backline objectives, it could very well be a win of attrition instead. Alphurus would be proud. The other two secret missions are particularly helpful for armies that get their second win late in the game and can exploit rapidly crumbling shatter concession. Okay, so we're going to get to see these as well, too. So let's take a look and see what we got here. So, and let's take a look and see what we got right here. Sorry, 1 second. Get this cleaned up a little bit. Okay, so I'm going to jump over there. Let's read these up and see what they're doing. So we've seen, again, the battle line focus. So now we have Secret Mission Attacker, Shattered Cohesion, which Secret Mission Attacker didn't matter very much. All right, so end of the battle. There are no units from your opponent's army on the battlefield. Oh, okay. Every unit from your opponent's army that is on the battlefield meets one or more of the following conditions. That unit is battle shocked. Unit is below half strength. The unit is more than 3 inches away from all objective markers. Okay, so every unit from your opponent's army that is on the battlefield meets one or more conditions. Okay, so I like this because even when you look into a situation where an army is what we would call tabled, this means you can have an army be tabled. Units is like one model left. Your opponent takes one dude and runs it in the corner, and you can't take it down. Well, it's below half strength. Okay, cool. There you go. You cover the whole map, and they have no objective markers that they control when they're trying to score those victory points. Cool. And then Battle Shocked. I think Battle Shocked is the least predictable one of it, and that's going to be more the fingers crossed because you didn't finish off every unit, that you're hoping that thing is going to be Battle Shocked or you're trying to Battle Shock it. So, again, a lot more achievable than what we saw before. And again, this is one that they said was based on your second win. So you're looking at armies that are really able to hit hard late into the game. Unbroken Wall. End of the battle. You control 3 or more objective markers that are not within your deployment zone. So both of these are based off that second win. So this is something where you go second. Now here, I'm going to scroll up real quick, so bear with me. When do we pick these? Just pick one secondary mission deck and hide it. So when do we pick them is the question. Because that's going to be a big part of how these all function. Are you picking them at the beginning of the game? Are we still picking them in that third battle round like we did before? That's the biggest question I have. Because at the beginning of the game, you may not exactly know what position you're going to be in for some of these ones that are more destructive and damage dealing, unless you can really read your opponent's army. And so I think that's going to mean that these last two, you're going to have a wider variety of knowledge of the meta and your opponent's army for being able to pick this early on in the game. So if you're picking out in the third battle round, you might have a better feel for what's happening, what's going on, and how it's all going to break down. These other two, though, if you pick these at the beginning of the game, and you know it in your head that's what you're going for. But even if you don't pick these at the beginning of the game, you can have this in your mind of like, okay, my opponent has no battle line units, so I want to put myself into a position where if I need to go after the secret mission, here's where I go. So I feel like I like the first two more then I like the second two. If you pick it in the third battle round, then the second two will be fine. But I definitely think the first two are going to be more usable, and we actually may see some of these secret missions played where we didn't with the gambits. A lot less complicated. Like right now, I can scroll away from these and looking at this, I could talk to someone about these and just say, this is what the four of them do. I may not have the names memorized, but I can tell you, you do this, you do this, you do this, you do that. Much easier to memorize, where the other ones were just like, if you do this and then it's a Tuesday and your opponent's last name starts with the letter S, and then you can score these points. Now, what they did say is you only get 20 points off of this, so some of these you better hope that your opponent's not going to score 50 off primary or 41 even off primary. Otherwise, you're going to be in some trouble. All right, so last little piece. Each Pariah Nexus mission deck contains 69 cards, including both attacker and defender decks of secondary missions and secret missions. So, just one pack will cater to both players in a game. You'll also get 6 pop-out objective marker tokens. Okay, so all you need to bring along is your army, some terrain, measuring sticks, and dice. Yeah, all you need to bring along. I'm sorry, all you need to bring along is your army, some terrain. That's right there. That's a lot to carry to somebody's place. I'm hoping that if I'm going somewhere, they have terrain. Sorry, Lane. I know he's brought a lot over here. Excuse me. I'm just saying he's brought a lot of very nice terrain. Thank you, Lane. I greatly appreciate you and all this work that you've done to help me and assist me on the channel. But you're hoping that there's already terrain at least set up, which I'm very good about that for Lane. Anytime he comes over, I always have the terrain measured out, always cleaned up, ready to go, and stuff. So I'll throw that out there. But yeah, measuring sticks, tape measure. How about? I mean, I don't really think measuring sticks. I love. Okay, I guess I can't be too critical on that one because I do use a lot of different templates, a 9-inch, a 6-inch, a 3-inch, and stuff like that because it really does help, especially for deep strikes and stuff like that. But tape measure. The chapter approved Pariah Nexus deck is due to land in just a few months, and we'll let you know when it goes up for pre-order here at Warhammer 40k Community, or Warhammer Community. All in all, I mean, is it like, oh, the whole game is going to shift, the whole game is going to change? I know we hear those things a lot, and yes, I will throw it down right now, yes, the game will change. The game will change when we see all the secondary missions. The game will change when we see the primary missions. The game will change based on these secret missions. You know, your warlord is within range of one or more objective markers in your opponent's deployment zone. Well, typically, there's only one. But does this mean we could possibly see more than one objective marker in each deployment zone? I do recall that things like when you could plant objective markers, but I thought those were outside, so I don't know. But I guess it's a safety precaution in case some of the missions, maybe you move markers or something like that, so more could be in there. But being able to do that really caters to, okay, I'm going to take my warlord, I'm going to put him with a bodyguard, and it's going to be a strong bodyguard. And that's a unit that I'm planning to, like Lich Guard were in the early part of the edition. You know, you take a squad of Lich Guards, you put an Overlord in there, and that Overlord's your warlord, and then you push across the field and you go to center, and now in the back of your mind you're thinking, okay, I'm going to do a command insertion if I can't control these other objectives. And then as the game goes on, maybe your opponent hits you with some battle shock effects and your primary score is getting kind of wimpy and they're beating you on primary or they're tied, and you're like, you know what? I don't have the resources to continuously control these objectives now. I'm just going to you have purposely ignored my Death Star style unit. I'm just going to push it into your deployment zone, and that's it. And that's all you need to do is just get in their deployment zone, take their objective marker. And then, you know, you look at your opponent's army and you go, oh, wow, you have no battle line units. Okay, cool. Then for War of Attritions, you already have met that condition of there are no battle line units from your opponent's army on the battlefield, or they have only a few. But every battle line unit from your opponent's army that is on the battlefield is not in your opponent's deployment zone. So you just focus down those ones. So this now gives AdMech a little bit of thought there with being able to have a Doctrina that just in their rad saturation, stuff like that, that it targets units in the opponent's deployment zone. So it's like if you stay, I'm going to take these out and be able to have that 20-point scoring at the end of the game. And then you just have to have one or more battle line units from your army in that deployment zone, which is very, very feasible for a lot of armies. Like Grey Knights, strike squad or battle line. Put a squad, hold it till the end of the game. Oh, I'm going second. Okay, let me remove all your battle line. Here is a theoretical situation for this one. I'm playing Grey Knights and I have one squad of strike. I'm going second. I take that squad of strike and I put it on my home field objective. I do everything in my power to score 20 points on primary by turn 3, which would be 2 turns of 10. Then I just keep that unit alive. You have an army that has 0 battle line units in it, which probably we won't see very much with this Moon 4, but we might. There's still a lot of variations of armies that don't have battle line units. So now we go into the last turn, turn 4. At the end of your turn 4, I pick up my strike, and on my turn, I place them down in my opponent's deployment zone. They're a battle line unit. They're in your opponent's units from your army that are within, so it doesn't even have to be wholly within, just within. Put them down there. Okay, they touch your deployment zone. Cool. Condition 1 met. You built an army that has no battle line units, so condition 2 met. 20 points right there. So these are actually things that we can play around here. And then, like I said before, and I'm going to repeat it, Shattered Cohesion and Unbroken Will, if you have to draw this at the beginning of the game, I don't see these ones being very good in most scenarios. If this is something that you can select, you can still pick it turn 3 and go, okay, I'm going to take this turn 3. Then I see that being much, much stronger. Because like the last game that Lane and I played, while I didn't table him and I didn't wipe out his units, if I had something like this available, that might have been a place that I started considering and going to for, trying to control 3 objective markers outside the deployment zone, stuff like that, trying to score these victory points when he was running away with the primary scoreboard. That would have been really, really nice, especially since I don't know where I put my score sheet. But I think that I don't think I got, I don't even think I might have barely pushed 20 on primaries. And that's over the course of 3 turns. 5 turns. So, yeah, being able to increase that by 20 would have been really, really nice at the end of the game. As far as secondary missions, we're going to see some come back. We're going to see some gone. We're going to see some new ones. I think that their biggest focus is looking at battle lines, so we'll probably see a lot of stuff that deals with a battle line unit doing effects. Might even be boosted points for battle line units, as we've seen in the past. They've done things like that. Doesn't look like they're going the CP generation route, which we saw in previous editions. Maybe that'll be something more towards the end of the edition where you can generate that. I think there's enough CP generation in the game right now. I think command point usage and generation's at a fair point right now. Not too overly worried about it. I think some of the index armies could probably use a little help, but they're index armies, and the help is to come with codexes. So, very excited about this. This is going to be a lot of fun. It's really definitely going to reinvigorate 40K, where, like I said, right now, it feels like a lot of the releases have been very stealthy. There hasn't been as much excitement. And again, I don't play Chaos. I do have Orcs. I'm really enjoying the Dread Mob, but it's not my primary army, so that might have a lot to do with it, that my social medias don't pick it up as much. And AdMech, as much as I've tried, it's really a tough army to love. It's very, very tough to love the AdMech right now, so you're getting a lot limited there. Yeah, for me, in my armies, the only ones left, really, the only one left that doesn't have a codex right now is Grey Knights, really, for my armies. So, that's where we're at. And then I'm going to be trying to do, like I said, I'm doing some research to catch up on everything with 40K so we can talk about some stuff from the opponent's perspective. It's not necessarily about just, hey, as a Chaos Space Marine player, here's what you're going to do. It's, hey, as a Necrons player, here's what we're looking at to face off against Chaos Space Marines. and stuff like that. Next week, I will be playing Necrons. Will be coming back to the table to face off against Lane. I'm happy to see this is going to be where we go with the title in the future. Still looking for ideas for the title. I have not been able to design it. Everything I want to do ends up costing too much money. So that's still up in the air. Willing to take some suggestions. But all right, that's about it. I'm very excited to see this. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. And as always, thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you again soon.